Be vigilant at all times and pray that you have the strength. I'm reading a book that was given to me by one of our parishioners called the 10 Things a Child with Autism Wants Every Parent to Know. It's written by Alan Nottbaum. It's a beautiful book, very insightful and really deeply personal. She herself has 2 boys with autism, and she speaks in their voice, if you would, to understand the context of their lives. Deeply personal and absolutely beautiful. I have 2 nieces that have been recently diagnosed with autism, so it was a particularly apt time for me to read and to understand the context of their lives. What was fascinating, there were many wonderful things out of the book that I'm still sort of pondering and reflecting on. One is the sort of more obvious one: please be patient with me. I'm not trying to be difficult. I thought that was one of the great chapter. But the one the 2 chapters that highlight for me was, love me with no if and no but. I think that would speak to all of us. We all want to be loved with no if and no but. But in it, that chapter, she goes into how that I haven't chosen to be like this. This is who I am. It's in the voice of the child. So please love me not for what I could do or what I should do, but who I am right now, because this is who I am. Really deeply profound and beautiful. The other chapter that got my attention was to parents, was that to choose, you have a choice in how you react to me. And that no choice is a choice. And when you have too many choices, you still have choice. You have to choose. And so it was choose the best you can in that circumstance. She uses a metaphor that I've heard before, but I thought was particularly profound and helpful. She goes, parents are often told, and I'm sure you who are parents out there hear this all the time, is that when you're parenting, life is more a marathon than it is a sprint. Take the long view, right? You've heard that, right? But she takes that one step further and says, well, it's not just a marathon, it's a long distance relay race of 200 plus miles, which you run with a group of others. You're part of a team, because you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. And that sense is that, when you do a relay race of 200 miles, you run 10 miles and then you hand the baton off to somebody else who has to run another 10, and then you get to come back and do another 10 later. But you have a role to play. Sometimes this is not your moment. And you have to let somebody else run the race as imperfectly as they do. They've got this leg of the race. And to understand that we don't have control of all the elements. There's all we can do is run the race when we're given the baton. So the reason why I bring all that up is I think it's particularly, so it's the context of the book is basically is saying, look, life is chaotic for a child with autism, because they have a sensory overload and a processing overload, and they have a communication challenge. And the context is we want them to be something that they cannot be. Not that they don't want to be, but they cannot be. So having them understand that. And so the reason why I find this particularly powerful for Advent is because we have this sort of cognitive dissonance to what's going on in our life. Because outside these walls, we have everyone in the world is getting us ramped up for Christmas season. I mean, the Christmas trees have been in the shops since well before Thanksgiving, even sometimes as early as Halloween. So they've been ramping up the consumerism and the secular, if you would, engine of consumerism and acquisition of more stuff, if you would, accumulation. And so it's hard for us to step out of that. And we just finished Thanksgiving, and a lot of us have put all the Thanksgiving stuff away, and up comes the Christmas trees and all the Christmas decorations, and out comes the Christmas cards. And now we got to plan the Christmas parties and the Christmas gifts, and we got to decide where to go, and we got this, and we got that, and we still got school, and the kids are coming back, and and you can feel the anxiety raising for all of us. And there are a few of us who have managed to sort of whittle our way through that, but most of us feel the anxiety building, and we've only the first day of December. We haven't got there yet. So you can understand, we're beginning to get a sense of what it's like to be a person with autism. There's a sensory overload. There's just too much going on. And so we could take a leaf out of this book and be patient with one another, is to be gentle with one another, to love with no buts and no ifs, to choose wisely in best we can, as imperfect as we know it is, that we won't get it right the whole time. So here's what's really hard. The cognitive dissonance isn't help when we read the gospel today talking about the end of the world. Like, that doesn't help. Like, we're right. We've just got the beginning of a new liturgical year. We're talking about the end of the world. My gosh, Lord, can you give us a little bit of hope? And of course, we have the first reading. Jeremiah is trying to give hope. That feels like the end of the world for them. They're all in exile. Some of them are in prison. Some of them are slaves. Some they're completely disjointed. And here comes Jeremiah saying, oh, the God of justice is with us. Well, they may not have felt that way. More than likely, they didn't. So what are we to do? Well, I think every year we start this Advent, this 4-week preparation for the incarnation of Christ. That Christ is a Savior of the world that came once and will come again. And we're in this in-between time where we're called to wait. And we pause and we sort of wait an anticipation of Christ's coming again. Now you see how in this cognitive dissonance we're called to wait, and we get this craziness outside and the chaos going. It's hard to do that. But I'm wondering if we can take a leaf from Alan Nuttbaum and turn the conventional wisdom on its head a little bit here. See, we are saying we're going to wait for Christ, but really it's God who is waiting for us. And God's been waiting for us to show up for a long time. It hasn't been just this week. God is always waiting for us to just come and to be with Him. And see, when we make it a little simpler like that, then it's maybe a little easier, because it's not our work. Our work is to be simply present to the Lord and to allow God's grace in. The God who is waiting for us. God who is pleading for us to show up, just waiting for us. So what are we to do? Well, I think that we're called in a more profound way to we can't change all the circumstances outside. We are not going to change the secular world, people. We're not going to change the store. They got goods to sell, and they're going to start selling it. They're going to be more aggressive than ever. That we can't change, but our attitude, that we can change. See, the difference between heaven and earth is not about altitude. It's about attitude. It's about attitude. And the attitude that we're called to have is, I don't need to change all that. But what I can do is I can be still. I can be watchful. I can allow the Lord, the grace in my life, to be present to Him who is waiting for me. And so we're called to that moment of prayerfulness. Now that doesn't just happen on its own. We've got that choice to make. And that's the choice we're called to do. Is to take a little time each day to slow down and pray. Take a little time in the morning, take a little time in the evening, the night, and just be still and be hopeful and be present to God, who is already present and been waiting for us for a long time. Let's not make it any more complicated than it needs to be. Let's not fight the forces of secularism or consumerism. That's the world. Let's just own our own little journey, our journey of peace, our journey of hope, our journey of love. But first, we need to accept God's grace, who waits for us, who is promising that He has always been waiting for us. And He is like the ultimate parent of any child with autism, the best parent, who simply is present to us, waits for us to come to us, and loves us with no ifs, no buts, and is patient with us. Today, let us be still and know that the Lord is here.